Smile.
But I'm not happy.
People
Why are you
staring.
I don't want to do this.
You have to. They'll know
No one
something's
cares
wrong.
about your
Why
life.
is that bad?
Nobody cares. They won't understand.
Nobody
I want to go
cares.
home. You'll hurt their feelings.
This is ridiculous. What are
Why
we even
just
talking about?
like,
Once
just
you want to
keep
keep them
them
happy,
happy.
what if they
They're
think
gonna
you're
be
stupid?
mean.
Just
Just
keep them happy.
Just keep them happy.
Just lie.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, here me and you, let's keep it real honest.
Hi, it's me. Welcome to Real Honest, the podcast where I share candid thoughts and feelings about life, love, and relationships, God and church, adulting, the workplace, and everything in between. I am your host. My name is Samantha, and you probably will not always like me, but I will always be honest with you. I want to focus on introspection today. I think that what I am realizing a lot is that typically my feelings toward other people have more to do with my feelings toward myself, or lack of working through my feelings toward myself. So I kind of want to talk through that to see if it's helpful to anyone. Starting with a quick goals check-in. So the small group that I lead with my church, we have like a monthly goal setting session where we kind of sit and talk about, like, each of us just kind of goes around the Zoom and reflects on, like, how did I do last month? What can I improve upon next month? And it just kind of voicing our goals out loud so we all kind of know what each other is working on and can encourage each other, but also kind of see where we're getting stuck and try to help each other with that kind of thing. And I feel like a recurring theme across the group this month was needing to kind of peel back and ask ourselves, why are we working toward these specific goals? So it's kind of like, if you have a fitness goal and your fitness goal is to lose weight, okay, but why do you want to lose weight? Is it for health? Is it for the way that you look? Is it chasing an unattainable beauty standard? Is it because you ultimately hate your body and you think that if you lose 20 pounds, you're going to feel better in your skin? Is it because you have a health issue and if you lose 20 pounds, that health issue is going to go away? Or is it because you want to get strong because you have a hard time holding your kid for a long amount of time and you want to get stronger, so you want to work more into lifting? Like, what is really the root behind the goal? Because identifying that is going to help you prioritize it. I think that's another thing we were talking a lot about in the group, is kind of when we were reviewing our previous month and a lot of us were saying like, oh, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. I was like, okay, but what did we do? Because our time went somewhere. So, if we wanted to focus on healthy eating and we didn't focus on that because we were focusing on something else, what is that other thing that took precedence? And do we want that to take precedence? And if that's the more important thing, then maybe that's where we focus our goals for April, because maybe healthy eating is not actually our top priority. So to give you guys a specific example, like one of my top goals this year was reducing credit card debt. And I decided when I set my goals, like end of December, early January, I decided that was going to have the biggest impact on my life immediately. And then it's not the thing that I've been prioritizing. I'm definitely working on it. I'm just doing the slow and steady and not like the aggressive attack phase. And I found myself though still trying the approach of like, oh, let me just apply to more jobs. Let me just have 3 jobs again so I can make more money, so I can throw more money at this. But I've continually not done that. And I found myself like when I get through rounds of interviews and I don't get the additional job, I'm relieved and I'm excited because I'm like, I really wasn't looking forward to having 2 or 3 jobs again. And I really like being fully remote and not going to an office. And so I started to just sit down and ask myself, like, why am I not prioritizing that? And what I figured out is that I keep putting my creative goals on the back burner because they are just for me and don't make me money. And I've talked about like why I have issues with that and everything. But I think ultimately for just my own personal like happiness and health and well-being, my creative goals are a higher priority. So since my like regular job is kind of slowing down again, and I've kind of now got the rhythm of like what times of the year are going to be super busy, what times of the year are going to be a little slower, and when it's going to be somewhere in the middle, so I'm able to plan around it. And what I've been doing in the past is that when work gets slow, I get anxious and I try to fill my day with additional jobs But then that becomes an issue when my regular full-time job is really busy. And so I've been thinking, like, if I can reprioritize my time, like if I know that the next 2 weeks at work are going to be a little bit slow and then it's going to pick up, okay, that's 2 weeks that I can shift things around and I can really focus on writing or reading or music or whatever it is that I want to work on. And I've decided that that is actually a higher priority to me than paying off debt is, because when I do actually sit down and work on music, I get really excited. When I actually sit down and work on my book, I've been getting really stressed out because I keep getting stuck, but I did find a book about how to write a book that I'm enjoying a lot, and it's giving me all of these new ideas about how to restructure my outline to make it easier for me to actually sit down and work on, and that's making me feel really inspired and really excited. And I know you guys are probably sick of me talking about this book. To be honest, I am too. So I'm really hoping that for the month of April, what I'm going to focus on specifically is finishing reading this book that's teaching me how to write a book and how to write a compelling story so that I can redo my outline and then actually get into a regular writing rhythm. That's at least the goal for April. So we will see how it goes. But bringing that back to knowing myself, so I use Passion Planner, which if you guys are familiar, they do like a passion roadmap in the beginning of the planner and just have you write down, I think it says take like 5 minutes to anything that you want in the world, like anything that you can dream or imagine, write it all down. And then when you're done with that, you go back and say, and put dates on it of like, okay, what would I like to do like in a lifetime, in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? And then you look at everything that you wrote down and it's like, pick the one thing that would have like the biggest impact on your life, the biggest largest immediate impact, and highlight that thing and then make a plan to do that. And so I chose paying off debt because I was thinking practically like that would have the highest immediate impact, because then I would have more fun money to go on more trips and I wouldn't be worried about having additional jobs and just having like more income and more financially secure. But I actually feel like that was more like the little girl in me that still feels a need to follow the way that my parents live and the way that they think. Because when I look back at my planner of all of the things that I wrote down that I could dream or imagine, I know that if my parents looked at that list, they would say that is the number one goal that you have to prioritize and do first. But it's not actually mine. And so I just find that interesting, like just kind of the question of how well do you really know yourself? Like how many of your thoughts and decisions are actually coming from you versus somebody that's very close to you or like an important figure in your life. Like if you think even in like a work setting, you know, when you're talking at work, how much of what you're saying is actually coming from you versus is coming from your boss or another teammate because of the work setting and like the need to impress, or like if you totally disagree, but you're not in a role where you can disagree and you have to just go with the most senior person in the room, you know, how much are you doing that? And then if that's happening, like how long does it take for you to just kind of adopt the opinion as your own without even really realizing it? I feel like what I am learning from God right now is that I really need to trust myself and my instincts and spend more time focusing on like who I really am and to stop trying to be somebody else. I feel like I am a very mean and judgmental person, and so I'm trying to go out of my way to not be that. But I don't think that I actually am a mean and judgmental person. I think I'm too much of a people pleaser to really be mean. Like I have known pretty much my whole life, but definitely learned in college, the roommates are not for me. Like I need to live alone. I not only love to live alone, but I need to live alone. And like I just got back from my annual birthday trip to Disney and like sharing a room with 2 other people for a whole week. Like we just like the room's a different temperature, people snore, like it was very chaotic for me, and I got very little sleep the whole week. And then I was home for like a few days, and then my mom came to stay with me for a week. And it's just, I never noticed how quiet it is in my house because I'm the only one here to ever make any noise. So it's just been really interesting to just see how, like, if I'm in my basement working, I can hear my mom walking around upstairs. Or if I am upstairs recording my podcast, I can hear my mom downstairs watching the TV. And I'm like, wow, that's really loud. And it's not, it's not that she's loud. It's just that, like, if I'm using my workout equipment, like if I'm on the walking pad or the Peloton bike, I'm on it with my headphones on, I'm singing, but there's no one here to hear me. But like if my mom's walking on it with her headphones on and singing and I'm in the other room, I can hear her. And it's just been kind of a shock to be like, wow, if there is one other person in my house, I'm very, very, very aware of it. And it's just more comfortable for me to just know, like, any lights going on and off, any noise being made is all coming from me and I have full control over it. So there's never like a jarring thing happening because it's all being caused by me. And these are things that, like, when I plan the Disney trip every year, it never occurs to me to ask, like, are you a heavy sleeper or a light sleeper? Do you snore? What temperature do you like the room? What time do you wake up? Like, are you cool with rope dropping? And please make sure that you know what that means before you tell me that you're cool with it. Like, I don't bother to ask those questions because it's so expensive to stay on property at Disney. And it's always just assumed that we're going to share a room because that's cheaper. And I'm just like, at this point, I would rather pay more for the peace of being by myself. So I think that but I feel like that's mean. Like, I feel like that's rude to say to someone of like, hey, I can really only sleep if the room is cold, if it's pitch black, and it's completely silent. And I would like to say, like, it's my birthday, I booked the room, it's my trip, like, but I tried to do that last year. People got real upset with me. So I was trying to be like, oh, let me be more accommodating because it's so rude of me to, like, want it to be silent and want it to be dark and want it to be cold. And, like, how is that fair? If somebody else wants it to be hot and I want it to be cold, like, why am I the person who gets what I want as opposed to the other person? And I just, like, I feel like that's mean. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be mean or nice. It can be you like this and I like this and we're incompatible to be sharing space. I don't know why I have such a fear of doing things alone because I love to be alone so much. Like, I love that I live alone and I love to be alone in my house all the time, but I don't like to be alone out of my house. Like, for some reason, I have this idea that, like, if I go to a restaurant by myself, people are going to judge me. Everyone around is going to be staring at me like, why is that girl alone? Like, does nobody like her? Does she have no friends? Does she have no family? Like, why is she here eating alone? Like, I'm just so worried that everyone's going to be, like, staring at me and judging me, but, like, I highly doubt it. I've been reflecting a lot on why I'm so obsessed with Disney. Like, why do I have to go to Disney every year for my birthday? Like, fundamentally, what is it that's driving this? And I think it's because I have really fond memories of my first ever Disney trip was when I was studying abroad in college. We went to Disneyland Paris for my birthday. And it actually was a hot mess that is a story for another time. But I was with a lot of psychotic people that made a really, like, awful, it was a terrible semester abroad. But that weekend, everybody rallied and, like, came together for my birthday. And I mean, we were being totally fake. Like, I think it was like perhaps 7 or 8 people that absolutely hated each other, but we had already booked this trip and we had already bought tickets to Disney. And so that's just what we were doing for the day. And it was awesome. And I had the best time. And we all just, like, were super fake and pretended to be best friends. But, like, it was my first day at Disney. Like, no one was telling me that it was going to be a bad day. Like, I hugged Olaf. I cried the whole day. I just was so overwhelmed and amazed by all of it because I had, like, dreamt of going to Disney my whole life. And I thought it was really cool that everybody was like, oh my gosh, it's your birthday. Like, you can't turn 21 and I've never been to Disneyland. And so when I got home from that trip, I found out about the Disney College program and I set my sights on that. And I spent, like, that was like the focus of my senior year of college was getting into the Disney College program. And so then I achieved that, moved to California, worked at Disney. And while that was also a nightmare of a time, my first ever day there was magical and just absolutely amazing. I did make two of my best friends that I currently have today working at Disney in the Disney College program. And even though that time was pretty nightmarish, like the two of them, I would not trade having them for the world. And I had so many dream Disney days with them. So I think a lot of it is nostalgia, where it's just like, it's my favorite place. It's the happiest place on earth. Every time that I've been to Disney World has been magical and awesome. And I just like constantly want to recreate that. But I also think it's the idea of like, you can't be sad at Disney. Like, Disney's magic, Disney's happy, Disney is where your inner child comes out to play, and it's impossible to have a bad day at Disney. Well, that was turned on its head this last trip, because I had a terrible day at Disney and just like wandered through the park crying. But it was like, even I was like, I could be at home crying, but I'm at Disneyland. So like, that's kind of cool. And I still like, this is the first time that I like took a lot of time to myself, where like my roommates didn't want to rope drop. So I was like, whatever, I'll rope drop by myself, made some friends in line, and it actually was totally fine. And I think what I learned is like, I could totally do this by myself. Like, I could travel, I could stay in a hotel by myself, I could sit down at a restaurant and eat by myself, and I would just meet people in the process and in doing that. And I think for some reason I have convinced myself that I can't do that. But I think the truth of it is that I would actually, in many situations, prefer to do that. And I think that that feels mean. I think the desire to be alone in itself feels mean to me, because it's like, why don't you want anyone with you? And I think the assumption that I feel like my friends and family have when I want to be alone is that I don't like them. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think I'm just an introvert who like really, really enjoys alone time and gets very stressed out when she's forced to be with other people for more than 4 hours at a time. So this topic of knowing yourself and being known by others, though, I think like it begs the question of like, when and how do you really know yourself? Like, I feel like for me, I do a lot of it through therapy, through talking to my friends, through journaling, going back and reflecting on stuff. But if you're a person that doesn't really have that kind of time, you know, how do you get to know yourself? And also, how do you, like, what are the identifying factors of when somebody else knows you really well? This, you know, I think if gift giving comes to mind with this topic, because I love gifts. I love getting gifts. I love giving gifts. Like, I just think gifts are really fun. But I have a lot of friends and family members who don't like gifts. They find them very stressful, and they're like, it's just, you always get the person the wrong thing, and so you should always just get money. And I'm just thinking like, well, how are you getting somebody the wrong thing unless you don't know them? And I think that is why I like gifts, is because when I get like a really special gift from a friend, it is proof to me that they know me well. So like my sister, for example, for my birthday, she got to my house like not a full 24 hours, but almost like a day before I got home from my Disney trip. And she spent the entire day like decorating my house, and like it was so cute, like this huge like happy birthday banner, like balloons everywhere that she like individually blew up the little balloons. And she got me like jewelry with my initial on it, which I love monogrammed things. She got me jewelry with a cross on it because I love Jesus. She got me a Harry Potter Lego set. I love Legos. I love Harry Potter. And it was stuff that it's like, it was very clear that she has been paying attention to me when I've been talking and with all of our interactions over the last few years and stuff, because it actually was very similar to I can't remember which birthday it was. Was it 30? Was it 31? Cameron, remind me. I went to spend one of my recent birthdays with Cameron and Ryan, and Cameron had like streamers over the door frame for like it going in and out of the guest room, and had a happy birthday banner and a little tiara, and he got me a little birthday button because I'm obsessed with the birthday button at Disney, because I like walking around the park and having everybody tell me happy birthday all the time. Like, I just like to feel special in that way. And so it was, she remembered that like he did all of that stuff, like the decorating and everything. And then she did the same thing and put like a lot of time and energy into like the gifts. And it was different than, like, for example, I've had another friend that's like, oh, I know that you love Disney. And so she got me all of this like random Disney themed stuff, but none of it was like anything that I would really use. I'm trying to think. I don't even really remember what it was, but it was like some Disney themed skincare, like a Disney themed, like what do you call it? Like a toiletry bag or something, which like I already have toiletry bags. I have a very specific skincare routine and I'm not looking to change it up or do anything else. So it was like, there was a piece of it where like I appreciated this friend because she knew that I loved Disney. And so in her brain, it was like anything Disney will be a good gift. And I feel like for my sister, like the extra piece of knowing me was like, she loves Harry Potter and she loves Legos. So a Harry Potter Lego set is a great gift. Whereas she could have said like, she loves Harry Potter and here is like a Harry Potter themed spatula, which like, sure, I like cooking, but I have a bunch of spatulas, so that's not something that I need or I'm going to use, where I am totally gonna watch Harry Potter while I build my little potions Lego set and have the best time. I feel like if you have to think too hard about a gift, then the issue is that you don't know the person well enough to get the gift. Like, I think the gift should be when you see the thing, you think of the person. So like for one of my sisters for Christmas, I got her this, like, it was a special edition of some like holiday romance novel that was made into a Hallmark movie. And it came with like some, I think like a code to watch the movie. It had like prints of the characters by some artist. It had like a Christmas tree stress relief ball in it. It was really cute and sparkly. And I was just scrolling through Instagram and I saw this ad and just immediately thought of my sister because she loves romance novels. She loves Hallmark. Her job is very stressful and she could use a stress relief ball. She really likes like special editions and sprayed edges, like just loves books. And I just knew that this was going to be like a fun box for her to open. And then it's not something to just open and sit on your counter, but it's like you open it and then now you're going to spend time because you're going to read the book. And then when you're done reading the book, you're going to watch the movie. It was like multiple gifts in one. And she absolutely loved it and was like, you totally nailed this. And I was like, yeah, because I know you. Like, it just screamed, like, as soon as I saw it, like, your face popped up in my head and was like, she will absolutely love this. But what I'm not sure about, so the question I'm going to pose to you guys is like, is this just a me thing or is this a multiple people thing? And by thing, I'm referring to like my bread and butter is like knowing that my friends know me well. Like, that's what makes me feel loved, is when my friends show up in ways that show like they know who I am, they know what I like, they know how to make me smile or laugh or whatever, and vice versa. Like I am like, I love when I can call a friend and I can just hear in their voice how they're doing, and like just by their hi, I'm like, I know what kind of mood this person's in, and I know either how to brighten the mood or if they need to sit in the sadness or whatever it is. But I've spent enough time really paying attention to them to note that. Like, is that something that makes you guys feel good and feel supported and like loved, or is it something that you just totally couldn't care less about? I recently spent time with an acquaintance that I do not feel like I know well, but this person thought that we were very close friends. And that was really difficult for me because they kept like telling me that I'm their bestie, but then saying or doing things that like was not true to me and didn't feel like authentic to what I interpret our relationship to be. And it was very interesting, and just like the way that we were interacting, they were like touching me a lot and made a comment about, I was like, hey, can you, like, you're touching me too much, can we not with this? And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you liked physical touch. And I was like, I do, with like my close friends. And like that was an awkward moment because it's like they were like, oh, I thought like I was one of those people, and I had to awkwardly be like, so sorry, you're not. And again, that feels mean, but being like, there's a kind way to be honest. Like, honesty in itself is not mean, right? There's a rude way to say, wow, you psycho, I'm not your bestie, get away from me. But there's also like a, hey, I'm cool with physical touch with my inner circle. My inner circle has like 3 people in it. You are not one of those people. I feel like while that still may hurt the person's feelings, it's honest. And I feel like, is it not meaner to go on and pretend that I'm okay and comfortable with something that I'm not, to spare their feelings? But then I also wonder, like, what did I say or do to give this person the impression that we are best friends? Because they haven't said or done anything that gave me that impression. And I have not tried to do anything to give them the wrong impression. So where is the disconnect here? And I think the disconnect comes in, like, it's a combination of how well I know myself, right? So, like, for example, I think that I am exceptionally clear when I speak, but it's been proven time and time again that I'm not. Like, I have multiple conversations with people where I believe that I'm being abundantly clear and they are still confused and it's not getting through to them. And for the longest time, I was like, this is on their end, like they're not hearing me. But no, that's not always true. Sometimes I'm not communicating well, even when I think that I am. So it could be that even though I thought that I was being clear about where I thought the relationship was, the other person was receiving something different. So it's a combination of that along with the other person and what they're communicating. Like, maybe they thought that they communicated that in their mind we were extremely close and I missed that and didn't pick up on it. And then I think there's also like how I perceive them and how they perceive me, and those things just kind of like missing each other. And it's stressful because I feel like that it ends up very disappointing to me. Like, I think it's kind of like opening a gift on your birthday or on Christmas morning from somebody that you consider a close friend, somebody that you expect to know you really well, and it turns out to be something that like you just totally don't care about, or like a really bad gift. And the disappointing thing is it's not the gift. It's what the gift represents. It's that like you were so excited because you're like, oh, this is my best friend. They know me so well. Like, this gift is going to be awesome. And then it's not awesome. But the fact that the gift isn't awesome isn't the problem. It's that, wow, that friend actually doesn't know me as well as I thought they did. And then what do I do with that? I don't know how many of you listening struggle with like the need to be liked by others, but it doesn't even make sense that we all, not all, but it doesn't make sense that so many of us want people to like us so badly when so many of us don't like most people that we encounter, So it's like, at the end of the day, it's totally okay if you don't like your job. It's okay if you have an acquaintance that you don't want to be best friends with. It's okay if you have somebody that you've been close to for a long time, but they have changed, or you've changed, or you both changed and you've grown apart and now you want to end that. Like, it's okay if you're a mom and you're having a hard day and you don't want to share how awesome your kids are because in this moment you can't stand them. That does not make you a bad mom. It does not make you a bad person. Like I've been struggling with like the fact that my parents have moved. People are like, oh, do you miss your parents? Like, honestly, no. Like, I think it's really healthy and great for our relationships to have them 3 hours away. I think it's one of the best things that could happen to my relationship with my parents, to have them far enough away that they cannot just show up whenever they want. It has to be scheduled. It has to be planned in advance, because then I get the time to mentally and emotionally prepare for being with them. And when I go visit them, I get to choose how long to be there, and then I can go back to my house. And that's really difficult because the quote unquote right answer to do you miss your parents is a default yes, always, because good, kind children always miss their parents and want to be with their families all day, every day, but that's what it feels like the truth is. And so that makes me feel mean and wrong. But the truth is that I really love my own space. I prefer to be on my own. I am an introvert, and that does not make me a bad or a mean person. My hard conversation this week was actually in therapy, which again, I'm going to say, if you do not have a therapist, please get one. I think everyone on the planet should be in therapy. I do not care if you have not experienced any trauma. I do not care if you don't think that you have any problems. Like, therapy can help everyone. But anyway, I've been in therapy for many years now, working with the same therapist. I absolutely love her, and I think that she knows me really well at this point, and I generally find her very helpful and like love that she always pushes me. Our latest session really pissed me off, and like I walked out of there very angry, which is usually a good thing. Well, I won't necessarily say a good thing to walk out angry, but I think that if you're going to therapy every week, like feeling like there's nothing for you to work on, then, or work through, I guess, then I don't think it's that relationship may have run its course. But I think this particular conversation, like we were talking about friendships, and it was specifically focused on like the acquaintance that thought that we were best friends, and I disagreed, and it just caused a lot of friction and really uncomfortable for me. And I was just like, what did I say, or what did I do to make this person like think that we're so close? Because I don't want to be mean to them, but also I think it's crazy that they think we're best friends, because like absolutely not, get away from me. And my therapist was like, sometimes it's not you. Like, she's like, it's really good that you're being introspective here, and that you're looking at yourself as the common denominator among friendships, and that like you really struggle with relationships and stuff. And she's like, but you've also got to look at the fact that you are looking for a very specific friend. Like, you want a friend that is extremely emotionally available, very emotionally close, has a lot of time to sit and talk, somebody who's in touch with their feelings and also has the capacity for your feelings. You also want a Christian, but a very specific type of Christian, because you need a Christian that's like open to the LGBTQ plus community and not voting for Trump. And there's a whole bunch of like, I mean, I would argue that all Christians should be open and accepting to the LGBTQ plus community. And if they are not, then they're not Christians, but we don't need to get into that. But basically, in her like acknowledgement of how well she knows me and what I'm looking for in a friend, and how the person, like my ideal bestie, is like a very rare unicorn, what I was receiving from that was, it's really hard to be friends with me because I have such a specific niche for my friends to fit into that very few of those people even exist, and it's totally unfair. And that was stressful to hear, because I want to be like an open and accepting person. I don't want to be hard to be friends with. I don't want to be hard to talk to. I don't want to be a person that's just like dismissive and like, oh, you can't be friends with me. You can't be friends with me. This particular acquaintance was behaving in ways that made me very uncomfortable, with just like touching me too much, and like a lot of like yelling at me, because like not even, I wouldn't say yelling, but like aggressive, like speaking to me in an aggressive way because they wanted me to do something that I didn't want to do. And then when I was very direct to say like, hey, this is bothering me, stop doing this, they were like, so like, when you say no, how hard of a no is that? Is this like a real no, or like a... And I'm just like, no is no. Like, how are you even asking me that question? And my therapist was just point blank, like, this person cannot be a close friend for you. Like, this is like so far outside of the little specific niche of people that you're looking for that you can be really close with. And you need to just accept that and move on. And I was like, well, I wasn't even like necessarily trying to get closer with this person, but I am trying to identify what I said or did to make them feel closer to me than we were, which of course we couldn't identify because we didn't have the other person there. And then we kind of moved on to analyzing like the close friends that I do have. And so I think I had told you guys about like one of my new best friends that I'm trying to just let it be what it is. And I'm so grateful to have this person in my life. And I even like said to her at one point, like, you're one of my best friends now. That's awesome. Like, I love talking to you every day. I love her insight and perspective, and it's really exciting to have like another close friend, because I want like more close friends, but I also don't want to put so much pressure on this person. And I even straight up said to her, like, you know, I'm not sure like how long we're going to be in each other's lives on this level, like whether this lasts 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. Like, I'm grateful to have you. And I had already had this conversation with this friend, and she was very receptive to it. She's like, yeah, totally get it. Like, appreciate you too. And my therapist like kind of made this face and was like, I don't know that. She's like, I'm feeling like if I were like a new close friend of yours and you said to me like, oh, you might do something to ruin this in 6 weeks or 6 months, but like, glad to have you today. Like, I feel like that would be off-putting. And I am like, that's not what I said. That was not the tone. And that also was not the message. There was no blame in it. I wasn't saying, she's like, well, you're carrying like your past hurts and past traumas into this relationship. And I was like, I'm absolutely not. Like, I did not go to her and say like, oh, all my high school friends dumped me and I've never been able to make friends since then. So now every time I get close to someone, I'm worried that they're going to leave. Like, and you're going to leave too. That's not what I said. I said, I want to acknowledge that we are both humans that are changing and growing. And we kind of became best friends like overnight. It wasn't really like like an overtime build kind of thing. It's kind of just like we got into each other's lives. We had some deep life talks and we were like, I like you. You're cool. Like, I want to talk to you more. I want to keep hearing your thoughts on things, and just kind of ramped up pretty quickly. And I was just acknowledging that like, in the past, I would probably latch on to that person and be like, oh my gosh, I have found a fourth magical unicorn that fits into this little niche of bestie that I have. And so I must keep them forever. And I was just acknowledging the fact that I am no longer going to do that with anyone. And I'm just going to say, if I have you for 2 days, I want to enjoy those 2 days and not spend those 2 days dwelling on the fact that I might not have you after them. I want to just enjoy it. And that was very clear to the friend. She was totally receptive, totally got it. And I was very, very annoyed that my therapist heard something different. I was like, hello, what's going on here? And after I clarified it for her, she was like, oh, okay. And kind of changed, I felt like kind of changed demeanor, and was then like, well, I think she asked me like, if this relationship was more reciprocal than like my two best friends that I typically talk about, because the two of them are not super forthcoming with their own stuff. And so we probably spend, I don't really want to put a percent on it, but I would say we spend more time talking about me than we spend talking about them. And so she was asking like, with this new friend, is that the same? And I was like, no, I think, or at least I hope, I guess I would need to ask her and see what she says so that we can make sure that we're on the same page. But I would say that it is pretty even give and take of like her sharing about her life and me sharing about my life. And she was like, oh, okay, good. She's like, I just want to make sure that we're like thinking about that and calling it out, because you do gravitate toward people who like tend to make things more about you. And that like really, really, really pissed me off. And I was talking to one of my best friends about it yesterday, and he asked like, well, like, why did that piss you off when she said that? And I was like, I think fundamentally it's because it shows that she doesn't know me, which is really alarming to me, because like, she's been my therapist for so many years and is supposed to know me super well. And I feel like I am not friends with my two best friends because they make everything about me. Like, I am friends with my two best friends because I love them and they love me, and we've been in each other's lives for so many years, and they are interesting and they're funny and they get me and I get them, and I feel like we help each other. Yes, it is true that both of them struggle to talk about themselves, but I wouldn't say that that is like a reason for me to be friends with them. Like, I don't go into our conversations being like, I know you're not going to talk about you, so let's talk about me. Usually I try to talk about them and they kind of put walls up, and I don't push because I know them and I know that they don't want to be pushed. And I know that when they are ready to talk, they will, and they both have done it, just less often than me. But I feel like, I don't know, I really felt attacked that she would think that I want that, because I, like, of course I like attention. Like, I'm sitting here doing a podcast without a guest, like expecting people to be interested in my thoughts for 40 minutes. Like, that's narcissistic. I get that, but at the same time, it's like you guys can skip forward, you can turn this off. It's like you're choosing to listen to this. So if you've made it this far in, you do find my thoughts interesting, or you hate them and you're hate listening, and like thanks for the listen if you're hate listening. But I feel like if I was collecting a group of friends that like only helped me and talked about me and like just were giving to me and not getting anything from the relationship, and I wasn't providing anything and I wasn't listening to them ever, like who wants that person? Like I don't want that person in my life. I don't want to be that person. And I think also part of the issue for me is that I feel like because I expect my therapist to know me so well at this point, I feel like there has to be truth in it, and she's more likely to be right than I am. And that is actually not true, because for the first couple years that I was working with her, I met with her every week. And at this point, I meet with her every month. So in the same way that she has taught me that like a lot of times family members, they see you through the lens of being in the same house together. So she said like a fundamental issue when I was like struggling with my sisters is that we know each other from like, you know, birth to 18 whenever you leave the house, and we're looking at all of the decisions that we're making and things that we're doing today as adults, but we're viewing each other through the lens of who we knew each other to be as children. And I think that's why a lot of parents struggle with their adult children, because they're looking at their adult children, but they're still like I feel like I'm permanently 17 in my parents' brains with just like the way they talk to me and the questions they ask me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you think I'm a child, and I'm not. But it's really hard for them because I have not lived with them as an adult. Like they have to get to know me as an adult, because it's the time that we spend together is completely different. Like the majority of the time we're talking to each other on the phone. We're not seeing each other. We're not in the same room. They haven't seen me grow and develop into a different person. So like my therapist got to know me really well when I was like 24, 25. And I think she does still know me well, but she definitely knew me better at that point because we were spending much more significant time together. And now we're doing monthly check-ins, and that's different. So it's also like there's changing and growing that I'm doing that she's not seeing. She's seeing like a month apart, and then she's looking at my growth from when I first started seeing her, which gives a perspective. But I also have to pull back and be able to say like she can be wrong. Like it is possible for her to be wrong about things. And that session did make me hyper aware of how much time, like when I'm talking to my two best friends, like I am now hyper aware of like how much time we're spending talking about me versus how much time we're spending talking about them. And I make a point to ask more often. Like I feel like, you know, if they reach out to me and say like, hey, how's your day going? And I tell them a little story about my day, and then I say, how's your day going? If they just say fine or good, they're both the kind of people that like, if they're going to share, they're going to share, and they're going to launch into their day. If they say fine or good, it's like, do not ask me more questions. I'm not going to tell you. So typically I just leave it at that and I move on with the conversation. But what I've changed since having this conversation with my therapist is just checking in with them more. So it's kind of like if I say, how is your day? And I get a fine or a good, and maybe we talk for another hour, then I'm like, all right, an hour went by. Maybe they're like feeling a little more open now. And then I'll check in again of like, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on with you? And I might still not get anything, but I am at least making a point to check in more often. And I also have talked to both of them about like this conversation with my therapist of like understanding that like, hey, I want to know about you. Like I am 1000% not interested in only talking about me all the time. And they both already knew that, but just wanted to make sure, because I'm like, well, my therapist didn't seem aware, so I wanted to make sure that you were. Who would you say knows you the best? And whether it's a friend or a family member, like, why do they know you the best? It's probably because they've spent the most significant amount of time with you, or seen you through the most maybe difficult times in your life. But think about who that person is. And then my next question is, does that person know you as well as you know yourself? Does that person know you better than you know yourself? I think that these things change over time. Like, I think there are days when I would say that Cameron knows me a whole lot better than I know me. And there are days that I would say that my therapist knows me better than I know me. But there are days that I'm like, nope, you guys are wrong. Like, I'm totally, and it depends on like how in tune I am with my own emotions on those days. Because even though like my closest friends, I would think, are able to be more objective about me than myself, there is still that element of like, I am sitting here with my own thoughts all of the time, and they only can know the thoughts that I share with them. And I think that's another thing that I've learned just about how much I love being alone and living alone is I'm not totally aware all the time of how I come off to other people. I think that's part of why I had this person that I made feel closer to me than I felt like we are, because I feel like my thoughts are so loud that they're very easy to read. I feel like other people can just see my thoughts on my face. I feel like I have a really bad poker face. I go out of my way not to have a poker face. Like, I don't try to hide anything ever. Like, if I'm sad, I want people to know I'm sad. If I'm angry, I want people to know I'm angry so that we can talk about it. But I think that that's showing on my face a lot of the time, but it's actually not. And the people are just not picking up what I think I'm putting down. And it's one of those things that I am just like, in my mind, this is what I'm thinking and this is what my face looks like, and those things are totally aligned, but that's not necessarily true. So I just say that to say, nobody knows what you are thinking, and you have to tell them. And sometimes you have to tell them multiple times. You have to be very clear, as clear as you can be. You have to be very direct. But even if you do everything right, even if you guys are speaking the same language and you are defining words the same way, and you have level set at the top of the conversation of like, when I say this word, this is what I mean. When I say this word, this is what I mean. Got it. Same page, same page. It is still very possible and very likely that you're going to walk away just having missed each other. It's just going to happen. It's part of life. It's part of communication. It's part of relationships, and it sucks, but it's not going to always happen. And I think what we need to do is just embrace the fact that it's going to happen sometimes. And I think that if it's happening all the time with a particular person, then that's when we should start to evaluate if that's a person that we need to let go. If it's happening occasionally or sometimes, then we just need to pause and be like, all right, maybe this isn't time for us to have this conversation. Maybe we need to have a little break here, but bring it back to the fact that like, this is not every conversation that we have, so we can work through this and figure it out. What are you guys watching right now? Some of you did send me recommendations, I think 2 weeks ago when I asked. I have not started any of those, so thank you for sending them. My mom and I have spent the last, 3 days maybe watching we started watching Good American Family, the Hulu drama, and then we got through however many episodes. I think there are 3 episodes of that show so far, but then we wanted to know more about the story, so we watched the whole docuseries, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, and it is the craziest story I have ever heard in my life, and I just could not pull myself away. I honestly don't know that I would recommend this documentary because I found it exhausting, and it just made me so angry, but I also had to know what happened next. I was not really, I guess they tried to do a satisfactory ending, but I would say midway through season 2, I was just over it. Then I was like, I just really want this to be over. But if anyone has watched that or is willing to watch it, I would love to talk about it because it's so wild. But I don't know that I would recommend it. Okay, bye.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through here, me and you, let's keep it real honest.